I just got done streaming roughly 10 hours of Blue Protocol's Japanese network test. And let me just preface this entire
video how he
by
says
stating this game
10 hours
has
as
not
if it's a
only
lot.
lived up to my expectation of it, but it has also surpassed it. I played the first beta test that this game had. Admittedly, that beta test had a lot of issues. The combat was kind of clunky, the animations were kind of clunky. There was a stamina system present for your mount where you could only use it for a number of seconds. The stamina would deplete and then you couldn't use your mount anymore. There were so many aspects of the game that needed vastly improved, and after having spent 10 hours roughly in it today, I can say that a lot of the issues that I had that I saw were present during that first beta test are no longer there. I am hoping to get to content that most people haven't gotten to, that most content creators haven't gotten to, that I personally haven't gotten to. After 10 hours, I pushed further than I did over the 3 days that I spent in it the first beta test. Now, Blue Protocol isn't your typical, your traditional MMO. Typically, MMOs are very linear, or then in cases of Black Desert, they're very open and freeing, but Blue Protocol, it provides a sense of being linear, but also at the same time gives you a level of freedom that you don't typically possess. And let me elaborate on this.
What does this even mean?
As an example here, the class system. Typically in MMOs, you have a class. That class is specific to your character. You learn.
So Guild Wars 2 or Terra, yeah,
where instances have a talent tree. In Blue Protocol, I decided to play mage.
A class has a talent tree, so wow!
4 different abilities. I have 2.
It looks like a regular MMO.
Creatures that you can equip that essentially function like additional abilities or gear, since they provide you statistical benefits, and you capture them and you craft them and equip them in game. So I am limited to 4 abilities, 2 additional abilities that you can equip. You learn a set number of abilities, and then you have an entire talent tree. Now I opted to utilize the fire elemental tree. There are a number of different elemental affinities that the mage has. You can opt for fire, you can opt for ice, you can opt for lightning.
So Guild Wars 2? Oh my god, this video. I'm just like, I don't know if I can stomach watching this entire video, chat. I'm gonna be honest with you. This person looks like the type of person, and by looks I don't mean like how he actually looks, just like the way he's speaking about the game. It's like, have you ever played MMOs before? Like,
Now, I didn't play a lightning build. I didn't play an ice build. I felt like the ice was inferior to fire in terms of damage and in terms of AoE potential. I prefer grouping hordes of enemies together and then AoEing them. That's just how I like to play my games. Now, fire allowed for me to do that. Fire gave me
is like a event
gave me dot
boss
damage, and also gave me AoE pressure that I feel like the other elements just didn't. And I feel like being presented with the ability to play a class a certain way or a number of ways creates a degree of freedom that you don't typically find in MMOs.
Excuse me, the mage of fucking WoW had arcane, fire, gold. Why? These type of people.
As an example, in Final Fantasy XIV, you play a black mage.
Weird noise.
And every black mage,
I want to rage at him.
The exact same rotation. You have the same buffs. In Blue Protocol, that's not the case. You
played 10 fucking hours of the video game while leveling, and you're comparing it to endgame and what people are putting on the fucking bar while leveling. This guy.
You can choose 4 abilities out of 20, out of 30. So you're very limited in what you can do. You're very limited in your utility. If you choose to focus on AoE, you're not going to be able to single target. If you focus on single target, you're not going to be able to AoE. If you focus on a more of a control build, you're not going to be able to really deal much damage, but you're going to be able to CC enemies. You can focus on more of a support build and be of a larger support to your group, but not necessarily controlling enemies or dealing direct damage to them. So the game provides you these unique freedoms that a lot of other MMOs don't. And there are MMOs that do. I'm not saying there aren't MMOs that don't already do that. I'm saying typically of the MMOs that I have played, that is not a
clearly you haven't played most of them.
Now, the game is definitely linear. There is a linear path where you...
What do you mean? You just said the game isn't linear just like, I don't know, 1 minute ago when you were praising it about how it's not linear and it lets you do shit. Why? Having 4 abilities sounds kind of boring.
You move from point A to point B.
It can be, but it's kind of like
point A to
reminds you of Diablo much? Who is also coming out with an MMO type RPG, and Lost Ark, who has a similar number of buttons and, you know, is considered an MMO.
Complete what you set out to complete. And
Guild Wars 2, let's not forget Guild Wars 2.
That's typically what MMOs are. So you have...
Okay, so he wasted his day 1 impression with 5 minutes of telling us how this MMO is completely different from all MMOs, but at the same time it's the exact same. Okay.
A sense of linear progression. And you also have that sense of freedom with regards to your class. But the world itself also has a level of freedom, in so that there are quest objectives that you're forced to do to progress with the main story or to progress with the side content in the game.
So you basically have you basically have clusters of quests that you have to do before you unlock the next step with your main story quest. Yeah, so innovative. Clearly it has never been done before. I can just name like 5 different games that did that.
Then there is the looting of all the shiny objects that are around, and there are a surplus of them, trust me. There are gems, there are
shiny items,
plants, herbs, or
plants.
Various different categories.
Never before seen!
The whole looting of all of the items is something you're going to be doing a lot of, trust me, because...
We never had gathering before in games, guys!
Into adventure rank, because I feel like this is integral to pretty much the rest of my thoughts on the game. Adventure rank in this game is essentially the gate with which you need to progress through if you want to continue making any kind of progress through the game. At level 6, I believe I hit a point where I could not take any more quests. This is because to progress any further, I needed to hit adventure rank level 2. Now,
so what he's basically saying is that you can't even play the game you want to. You're forced to do all the crap that they throw at you, regardless of whether you want to or not, because you need to level an arbitrary thing to be able to progress further. Nice.
Hitting adventure rank level 2 meant that I needed to unlock a number of different conditions. These conditions involve things like killing X amount of monsters, looting X amount of rocks out in the world,
very free,
X amount
yes,
of this specific flower, fishing for X amount of fish. These are things that you can do while exploring. These are things that you can do.
These are things you can do? No. Sir, you got it all wrong. These are things you're forced to do. There's no, you can do them. You have to do them. Which is bad.
While doing other quests, while killing other monsters, while fighting monsters in dungeons, like these are things that you're going to need to fit into your everyday activities if you want to progress.
Nice.
And this is a 100% requirement.
I needed a second job.
Otherwise, you won't learn new abilities. You won't unlock new story. You won't be capable of unlocking additional dungeons. You'll hit a
Nice.
wall.
I wanted another
And this is a
job.
wall that cannot be
I already
overcome
hate
unless
Lost
you,
Ark for
again,
its
complete all of these
grindy,
prerequisite conditions.
boring
Admittedly,
requirements.
the adventure rank can be annoying. I did find it to be a little bit frustrating because this was a Japanese beta, and therefore I didn't understand much of what was going on, and I could only translate so much accurately.
Dailies, weeklies,
So I was
battle
often
pass,
left
yeah.
just kind of running around, hoping what I'm looting is what I needed to loot to unlock and further progress.
Yeah, imagine
through
forcing
all of
everyone
the
to fish
conditions
if
that
they
were
don't want
necessary
to, just so they
unlock
can
the
progress
adventure
for the
rank
main
level 2.
quest.
But backtracking a
Like,
little bit,
what the
the game,
heck?
linear, while also offering a degree of freedom. Now,
Freedom.
as I played the original beta, I noted at the beginning that
How can he say freedom? Can someone tell me what is this weird twisted notion of freedom in his mind? How do you say freedom? You're forced to do content, otherwise you can't progress, but you're free to do the content that they shove down your throat. Freedom.
there were a lot of issues that needed fixed, that needed remedied, because it
Oh
dragged the
my
game down, really
God.
made it feel cheap. That is not the case with this beta test. This beta test had a lot of revamped features, a lot of revamped functions, mechanics.
Wait,
content,
so that's like
and
old shit that's
made
not
for a
even in the
very
game?
enjoyable experience. There's a lot of
Huh? How are these? He talked for over for 8 minutes. He talked for 8 minutes about things that are not in the game anymore? I want to throw something at him. I'm not a violent person, chap. I want to throw something at him.
depth to this game. There's more depth to this game than I feel
Throw me.
is typically present in other MMOs. There is the option to play any class you want to on a single character, and I know Eden Eternal did this, I know Final Fantasy XIV did this, but it's not something typically MMOs allow for, so you can level all the classes on one single character. There's the Imagine system, where you craft Imagine, which are creatures that you can equip, use in battle to provide you additional abilities. Like as a mage, I equipped one that
Pauses
could heal me and heal other players that weren't even in my party out in the field, which gave me additional survivability, additional utility in a group environment. You could also equip those purely for a statistical advantage, because they give you an item level like advantage to enter dungeons. You are required to have a certain item level, and that can be boosted by different items. So they function similarly.
So
to
you cheat
gear,
your
while
way
also
into
providing a
dungeons.
skill.
Okay.
So
Nice.
they fill a multitude of different roles, and then there are combat Imagine that you can use. So again, they fill a lot of roles. There are a lot of life skills. Fishing. There is a very large focus on crafting. Gear is only obtained through crafting. You need to go out, you need to farm
I like
items
that part.
to craft your gear. And if you're not a crafter,
I'm a
like
sucker
I
for
am, I hate
crafter
crafting. It's going to be a bit of a
stuff.
nuisance to do, but at the same time, like you're not going to obtain gear.
Okay, like, side note, that sounds cool, the fact that you can only get your gear from crafting and people craft. And the people that don't like crafting, they can just, you know, sell mats to crafters and, like, purchase the gear. That I like that. I like that as a system. I like that as a game. So far he said one thing that I like, I guess.
Necessarily from boss drops or world boss drops or dungeon boss drops. So I guess it is attempting to separate itself from that whole gear, the whole necessity behind farming repetitiously.
Yeah,
for
it's
gear and
like
being
Monster
disappointed when
Hunter,
you don't obtain it.
Sammy.
Because there's nothing worse than
Like,
trying
you gotta
to
go get the
attempt to get this piece of gear
materials and
from
make your gear.
a very highly ranked competitive dungeon or raid, farming it for a month, 2 months, not getting the single piece you need, seeing everyone else get all the different gear that they wanted. The alternative here is that you enter these dungeons, you enter these raids, and you get materials. These materials are then used to craft gear that you wouldn't otherwise get, or that you're not going to get. So there's never a point where you're not receiving something beneficial for you or for your future gear. Thus, there's always a purpose behind what you're running, and you never feel disappointed necessarily in what you get. Unless, you know, you only need like one item left, and for whatever reason you're not obtaining it. But I feel like that should be a rare case given the amount of material, the amount of resources you get during and even after completing each dungeon. The world itself, absolutely.
I'm sure there are no rare materials that are very
for
rare.
an anime game, I think
Not at
Blue
all.
Protocol is the most stunning anime MMO I have ever seen. Is one of the better looking anime games in general.
It looks
I know
just like
Genshin players in here,
Genshin.
they're like, oh, but Genshin looks better. I don't think so. I actually think Blue Protocol, graphically for its regions, is equivalent to Genshin Impact, if not even better. I think the character
I'd
models,
say they're similar but
fluidity
worse.
in the character animations are drastically superior to Genshin
Like-
Impact.
Like, if I had to rank them, I'd say like Tower Fantasy looks better than Blue Protocol. And Genshin is better just because it doesn't have all this fluff on top of it. Like, look how cluttered the screen is with everything. Holy
Drastically
shit.
superior to any gacha game out there. You can see this during
Superior to any gacha game? To freaking say that to my face! How dare you!
cutscenes with how characters move. Individual parts of their bodies, their fingers, their facial expressions, just how they move left to right and forwards and backwards and interacting with the environment, the seats, the counters.
Yes,
Everything is
Genshin also
just
felt
so
amazing the
high-quality,
first
but then
10 hours.
this is Bandai Namco. They're the people that did Code Vein. They are the people that published Elden Ring.
So, the people that fucked up a lot? Is that supposed to impress me? Oh, they did Code Vein. Oh, my bad. The game that a lot of people hated and disliked and had issues with. Yeah. They published a game! Spoiler alert. Just because you publish something doesn't mean your game, the one that you develop, is worthwhile. Spoiler. I know.
They have developed a ton of Tales of games, so they have a very long history with successful games. The combat is
Successful,
drastically
yeah.
superior to what I had played back during the previous beta test. The
It
first
looks
beta was
like a
very
worse
quick.
Guild
This
Wars
was so
2.
smooth. Everything just, it moved in unison. Running around, attacking, transitioning from attacking to your mount, transitioning from your mount to your attacks. Aerial combat.
Okay, we
grounded
get it.
combat.
You wanna
Combat where you're jumping off a cliff.
make a
and
baby with the
shooting
game.
enemies as you fall. The combat was phenomenal. Granted, the abilities were, admittedly, for the first few hours, very plain, very ordinary, not very.
Ah! The combat feels so good, guys, if you can stomach the extremely boring parts of it. But it felt really good and smooth as I hit the monster with my stick.
Impactful, but that makes sense. We were.
He played 10 hours and the first few hours, well, they were a slog, but after that it was nice. It was
Only,
fluid.
I think, level 4 or 5 for the first 4 hours of the stream. We are also limited to a max level of 20, I believe, for this test phase, so we're not going to be able to see what abilities we get at level 30 or 40, whatever they end up making the cap ultimately end up. But the combat was absolutely phenomenal. It blew my expectations out of the water, having played it originally. I feel like for the first 10 hours of playing an MMO, and I played this in Japanese, so I spent a solid hour and a half trying to translate everything on screen. But my first 10 hours spent in Blue Protocol, this new version of it, this finalized version of it, were better than I thought they were going to be. My impressions were so far above. I did not anticipate to have as much fun as I did. Now,
Okay.
I'm not saying it will continue to be as fun. I'm not saying it won't grow to be even more fun as I continue to unlock new features.
What are you
additional
saying?
dungeons, like the raids I did. The dungeons of which were actually a lot of fun. There were interesting mechanics in the dungeons. that I
Can you
could
make a
utilize
point?
to deal additional damage to monsters, additional damage to bosses. But I don't want to delve too deeply into this on day one because my opinion of certain features and certain aspects of the game are likely going to change as I progress through it on day 2 and spend 20 hours in the game. They're likely going to change as I progress through on day 3 and cover 30 hours of the game. So my opinion thus far, after 10 hours of network test, beta test on day 1, is that if the game launches in this state, it is going to be a monumental success. It is going to cater to anime fans 100%, but beyond that, this game feels so
I don't think so.
smooth. Feels so high quality. I can't wait.
Like, I'm an anime fan, and this graphic and the style, it just... It doesn't do anything for me. There's a lot of random clutter on the entire screen. It doesn't matter. He didn't talk about whether you can move your UI or if it's fixed there. Like... I don't know. It does not look, like, crazy. Not to mention the part where he said, like, you're gated. Why would I want to touch that?
Wait for all of you to get to test this out because this, again, exceeded my expectation. And if Amazon don't ruin it, and they have the potential to, but they also have the potential not to. And
That's
if
cute.
the monetization isn't ruined,
Amazon not ruining
for
games.
Bandai Namco, if they
Look
don't
at-
make this
look
pay to
at
win
New
or
World.
heavily pay to advance or heavily catering the whales,
It's
then I think
burning
this
right now.
might be potentially one of the biggest releases of the year and the only anime MMO that is left, that is relevant, and that is of any kind of success in the genre. Hopefully you guys join me on Twitch an hour from now, roughly, or if this video ended up being like...
Did he just insult, like, a lot of games? Yeah, Amazon picked it up. Yeah, I did not like this video. Not at all, honestly. Like, Blue Protocol itself seems rather lackluster, and his presentation of it, on top of dragging it out to 16 minutes to say something that could have taken 5, they don't convince me of anything. It actually looks pretty bad.